We are integrating non-human intelligence into the basic fabric of human activity. This is unfolding rapidly and in connection with a new type of entity we call network platforms, digital services that provide value to their users by aggregating those users in large numbers, often at a transnational and global scale. This is essentially described by activities and communities on social media applications. These network platforms increasingly rely on AI, producing an intersection between humans and AI on a scale that suggests an event of civilizational significance or existential change. As AI assumes greater roles on more varied network platforms, these platforms' basic manifestations are becoming material for headlines and geopolitical maneuvers, shaping aspects of individuals' daily reality. In less than a generation, the most successful network platforms have brought together user bases larger than populations of most nations and even some continents. However, large user populations gathered on popular network platforms have more diffuse borders than those of political geography. And network platforms are operated by parties with interests that may differ from those of a nation. Operators of network platforms do not necessarily think in terms of government priorities or national strategy, particularly if those priorities and strategies might conflict with serving their customers. Such network platforms may host or facilitate economic and social interactions that surpass, in number and scale, those of most countries, despite the platforms having formed no economic or social policy as a government would have. Thus, although they are operated as commercial entities, some network platforms are becoming geopolitically significant actors by virtue of their scale, function, and influence. Many of the most significant network platforms originated in the United States, like Google, Facebook, Uber, or China, like WeChat for an example, and now TikTok. As a result, these network platforms seek to build their user bases and commercial partnerships in regions containing markets that are commercially and strategically significant to Washington and Beijing. Such dynamics introduce novel factors into foreign policy calculations. Commercial competition between network platforms can affect geopolitical competition between governments, sometimes even topping the agenda in diplomacy. This is further complicated by the fact that network platform operators' corporate cultures and strategies are often developed to reflect the priorities of customers and of research and technology hubs, both of which may be far from national capitals. In countries where they operate, certain network platforms have become integral to individual life, national political discourse, commerce, corporate organizations, and even government functions. Their services, even ones that did not exist in any form until recently, now appear indispensable. As an entity without a single direct precedent from prior eras, network platforms sometimes sit in ambiguous relation to rules and expectations that were largely developed in a pre-digital world. Network platforms and their AI have rapidly expanded in a digital world that transcends geography. These platforms connect large groups of users across space and time, with instantaneously accessible aggregations of data, in a way that few other human creations approximate. The nature and scale of network platforms is bringing the perspectives and priorities of different worlds together in complex alignments, sometimes creating tension and mutual perplexity. The Age of AI and Our Human Future by Henry A. Kissinger and Eric Schmidt. This speaks directly to this concept of multipolar networking systems, network states. Precisely what we're dealing with now as we're fed this lie, this propaganda of techno-nationalist states fighting each other, jousting for a position, whilst, in fact, they are all interconnected and working towards one official goal, the singularity.